Three of us from work are sitting at a bar after a long week, just absolutely draining our money into cheap drinks. You know, the kind of night where everybody starts talking a little too freely. Yeah, that kind. So somehow the conversation lands on Miss Pebbles. Now, if you don't know Miss Pebbles, she works in accounting. Quiet during meetings, barely says a word, always dressed super properly. But the second she walks away, every guy in that office suddenly becomes a poet. So my buddy Jake leans in, takes a sip, and goes, "Man, Miss Pebbles, I guarantee she's not as innocent as she looks." And we all know. Because that is how stupid decisions start. Agreement. Then Mark goes, "Nah, I am serious. Women like that quiet ones. That is always a warning sign." I am like, "A warning sign of what?" He goes, "Of hidden hobbies." Now at this point we all laughing, right? I is dumb. It is immature. It is exactly the kind of conversation that happens when three grown men forget we're supposed to be adults. Jake doubles down. "I am telling you, man, Miss Pebbles has that look. Like she goes home, takes off the glasses, and suddenly becomes a completely different person." Mark goes, "Oh yeah, like Miss Pebble got a whole second personality we don't even know about." And I go, "You mean like a secret identity?" Jake points at me like I just solved a crime. Exactly normal at work, chaos after 5 p.m. Now we were fully committed to the bit. Mark starts getting way too specific. "I bet she is the type who acts all reserved in the office, but outside, she's the one making terrible decisions and pretending they didn't. Tea happened the next day." Jake laughs and says, "Yeah, like she walks in Monday morning with coffee like nothing happened. Meanwhile, her weekend needs a lawyer." At this point, I should have shut it down. I really should have, but instead, I take a sip and go, "You know what the scary part is? She probably knows exactly what she's doing too." And they both pause. Jake goes, "What do you mean?" I said. "Think about it. She is quiet. She listens. She notices everything." That is not innocence. That's strategy. Now they were both looking at me like I have just unlocked some dangerous truth. Mark goes, "Man, you have thought about this way too much." And I shrug like, "Hey, I just observed." Jake laughs and says, "Alright then, expert, what is your final verdict on Miss Pebbles?" And I go, "My verdict. She is the kind of woman who makes you think you are in control, right up until you realize you absolutely are not." Now, they both just sit there for a second. Then Mark goes, "Yeah, I would risk it." Jake nods. "Oh, 100%. And then they both turn to me and you. And I just take a long sip of my drink, set the glass down, look them dead in the eye, and say, "Yeah, I took that risk." They both start laughing immediately. Jake goes, "Of course you did. You had food in 5 minutes." Mark is like, "You would not survive a weekend." And I just let them laugh. Then Jake says, "Wait, seriously though, what would you even do if you had a chance with Miss Pebbles?" And I go real calm. "I would not have to wonder." They stop laughing. Mark squints at me. "What does that mean?" I say, "It means I don't have to imagine what she is like outside the office." Now the bar instantly became quiet. Jake goes, "Okay, that is either the weirdest confidence I have ever heard, or you know something we don't." And I just nod. "Yeah, I do." Mark leans forward. "No way." Jake goes, "No, no way, man." And I say, "Miss Pebbles is not just some mystery woman from accounting." I momentarily pause, taking a deep breath. "She is my wife." Now they both freeze, like their brains just hit a wall. Jake slowly puts his drink down. Mark looks like he just reviewed every word he said in the last 10 minutes and regretted all of them. Jake goes, "We were just joking." Mark adds, "Yeah, completely joking." And I nod. "Oh, I know." I take another sip. Let it sit for a second. Then I add, "Funny thing is, you guys actually described her pretty accurately." Now they're not laughing anymore. Not even a little. Jake nervously goes, "Alright, man, we should probably change the subject." And I go, "Probably." Then I pause just long enough to make it uncomfortable. And I add, "Although one thing you said did stick with me." Mark swallows. "What is that?" I look at both of them and say, "About her having a second personality." I momentarily pause and glared at them, because she has been working late a lot recently, and now nobody is touching their drinks.